Yeah. Well, happy Mother's Day.
Happy Mother's Day to you too. Oh my goodness. So you're gonna have to tell me about your Mother's Day weekend because Mother's Day in New York State, if you're a rower, means that you're gonna be at the regatta.
Yep,
So
that's
how
for
did it go?
sure. I saw and I do have to say I saw two other surprise rowing moms. So, yes,
Mm.
I will go on talk about that in the timeline. But so yeah, so I know we had talked about how States is like scheduled. And so they had the smaller women's boats on Saturday,
Okay.
and then they had the larger ones on Sunday. And so Keegan, it was in a quad, so he raced on Saturday
Mhm.
in the U15 plus for a quad plus. So they run the time trials in the morning. So they just do it almost like a head race start, like they get them all
Yeah.
queued up and then they start them in different lanes. I think they use like the three middle lanes. I think that's what it looked like. And so Hannah had her doubles time trial, and overall they finished fourth in the time trial, which was so
Nice.
exciting. They were so
Yeah.
excited about that. And so then going in, and then Keegan finished ninth out of 11. So he went to finals. He was the last boat to qualify for finals. I
Aw.
think he was a little reluctantly, he seemed a little bit like, I don't know if it's because he was like, well, great, we're going in knowing we're probably gonna get last, or if he was just like, oh God, I gotta do this again. He just seemed very excited about it when we saw him. But first I have to say, like, the flooding was crazy. Like, you've been to the Saratoga site. Like, I know that, Head of the Fish is notorious for the mud, or like, trekking through because you use more of Lee's Park for Head of the Fish. So I mean, I've seen that site flooded before and wet and all that. I've never seen it like this.
Wow.
I will have to post pictures when this one goes live because
Mhm.
I took some really great shots. And Sunday was worse than Saturday, even though all the rain was on Saturday and leading up to
Mhm.
Saturday was when we had all the rain. It was just all the runoff that just kept coming down. And it was so high at one point. So, the picture I sent you that was on
Mhm.
that little jetty that kind of comes out next to the
Yeah.
boat launch, and you're kind of where the kids get on the water and come back. So that got to the point where there was just this tiny strip in the middle on Sunday. So those, how there's like benches at the end of that
Mhm.
are permanent benches that people sit in and everything. So a lot of the kids with boots, or some just went like, no boots, or
Oh yeah,
just,
barefoot.
bare
Yeah.
feet.
Blah.
They were going out there sitting on the benches and cheering people on. But I was talking to some of the kids and they said that, and I saw this, like I saw people get to the edge of where the concrete ended and they had to like see where the end of the concrete was because you
Yeah.
couldn't, it was so deep that it wasn't just like a couple inches where you're like, okay, this is where the end of that concrete ends, right?
Yeah.
They had to get they I saw them like tiptoeing to the edge because it was so deep and dark on top of the concrete that
Yeah.
they didn't want to fall in, basically.
That's
It's-
wild.
It was wild. I've never seen it like that. Yeah, and so and the cars were just caked, and my car was still caked in mud and everything, and like all like a cart, it's got mud
Mhm.
all over it. My boots. So Chris and I both ruined a pair of boots this weekend at the same time, but we were separate. Chris
Mhm.
took the kids home for a little break on Saturday and brought them back for the finals. I stayed on the site, and we both simultaneously had boot sole malfunctions. His was on the way down from the hill after he parked, and you just realized that his sole was coming off, and he just ripped it off. And
Oh, wow.
so he spent the rest of the day with like one boot that had a sole and one boot that didn't. And then mine was like half off. So when I would take a step, it would get stuck underneath my foot, and I
Oh,
couldn't really walk because I either had to walk like I was walking like like this or just shuffle. So then I grabbed my hair tie and just like put it around my boot and it's
Oh
like
my gosh.
the head of the fish destroyed our boots. It was or not, sorry, not head of the fish,
Well,
Saratoga.
it felt like a head of the fish because it was
Yeah,
so
it
wet and
really
lucky. Oh my
it
god.
really did. Yeah. So so then Hannah had her so on Saturday, um, so we had to come up with a plan because you know how parking is and everything. The shuttle was not going to work. We tend to not do the shuttle just for timing purposes. Um, so Chris had brought the kids back, so he had to park really far down Crescent. So he was lined up to watch the kids on the bridge and got my new binoculars. They're awesome.
Mm.
So now if you do watch the race, I do recommend bridge watching with binoculars, but please people be safe because there were a lot of people that were just congregated, taking up way too much space, not letting anybody get by. And then you've got two-way traffic of people trying to walk on the road and like at
Mhm.
one point, the sheriff had to come out with his lights on and like yell at people and threaten to arrest them. Like it got bad. So people, be safe. Keep it one line on the
Mhm.
bridge.
Yep.
It's not conversation area. You're there to watch or get off the bridge. Like
Yep.
this is Kate's message to everybody. My PSA: rules to follow at New York State Championships.
Get off
So
the rules, police, telling everybody don't
right,
just for
yeah.
spectating.
Nope.
Purely rowing enjoyment only. No conversations.
No, you can converse with the people that are standing on both sides of you in one single line. And please, kids, no sitting on the curb because that even creates more of a just a space, lack of space to get around you because
Mhm.
yeah, just none of that. So bring your chairs, sit in your food tent area or something, but do not sit on the bridge. Okay, so that's done. So anyway, I do recommend it because you can see a lot for a 1,500-meter race on that bridge with binoculars. You can see quite a bit, so I do recommend that. So the finals, yeah, so finals, I didn't get to see because there was just no way to have it happen because I had to get the car and know that I was going to be there the minute she could leave.
Mhm.
She had a four, I think it was supposed to go off at 4:30, but everything was a little bit delayed. So I think it probably went off around 4:45. And we had a hard cutoff at 6:45 to get her in the doors to prom.
Um,
Then they would not let anyone else in. So it worked. It all worked out. She ended up getting seventh overall in the double. Um, so a little bit slower in the finals, which too bad. I mean, it would have been so there are teams that ended up beating them in the final that they had a better time in the time trial. But I think they thought it was a good race. They had a rough start, I think, but overall it was good. I think he said the final went better than the time trial, so that was good. The team overall did really well. Capital District Rowing did really well. Burnt Hills did great. Niskayuna did great. Saw lots of posts with medals from the local teams, so it was very exciting. She got to prom okay. She had like less than an hour to get ready. Pictures. We did not do many pictures. Um, and then Mother's Day was just Hannah doing her four,
mhm.
and the four had 33 entries. So her double had 27 entries.
Oh
So,
wow.
I mean,
Yeah, that's a big
they
field.
they did well considering. And then I think the four ended up well, the time trials they ended up 11th overall, the
Okay.
club and scholastic,
Okay.
and so they
Cool.
didn't make the A final. Um, but everybody was like there was a group of people like within really tight margins,
Yeah.
and so they ended up winning. I think by the time they knew that they weren't in the A final and where they stood scholastically, so
Mhm.
I can't remember what I told you, but I can't remember how they ended up scholastically, like if you looked at times and stuff. But um there wasn't a whole lot of Scholastic teams that were in the first group, so
Oh,
I knew they weren't, maybe they were fourth or fifth scholastically. I can't remember. Out of all the fours, like there
okay.
was the 33 boat, that's a lot of boats. So
That's a lot.
they should be proud of themselves. They did really well. And to win the B final was like really their goal by the end, because it's like at that point, you just want to have a good race and have some fun. And they did. They started off, I think at one point they were in third, and then they
Mhm.
just kept getting stronger through the race, which is always fun. So
Oh my gosh, that's the fun part when you're like when you're out in front. It's
uh-huh.
like you can see all the other boats. And so like you're trying to
Yeah.
like stay cool about it. You're trying not to look at everybody, but you're just like, oh
Hmm.
God, oh God. Like every stroke is like, okay, we gotta hold on to it. Okay, we're holding on to it. Okay, we're holding on to it. Okay, we're holding on to it.
Yeah.
So,
And
oh
that's
my
it.
gosh.
Yeah, and on the bridge, so talk about the bridge, like
Mhm.
I was talking to people on my side both days when I was on the bridge, made new friends. So shout out to, let's see, first I met one of our teen moms that I hadn't met. So it was a ninth grade boy. She was standing next to me. I had some Shen gear on, probably had this hat on. So she had asked, "Oh, we Shen in this race," and it was like an 8. So like we only have one group that had an 8, and I was said, "No, this it's not 8s." And so I was on my binoculars telling her, and then we were chatting. So we met, and then there was another team when I was waiting for Hannah's 4 race that was, I don't know how we were talking, but it ended up being Stony Brook. So Stony Brook, the high school,
Okay.
so I got a little bit of backstory there. They are right across the street from Stony Brook, so SUNY Stony Brook, and they just broke off from Port Jefferson. So they are starting a new team. So we were kind of chatting about that. It's hard. Like when you start off and you're doing your own thing, and you kind of we're used to having like certain things kind of taken care of. And,
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about this before. They were talking about, the challenges of, starting a new team, but they seem to be doing really well. So that was kind of fun. While we were watching, the reason why we started chatting is because there were a couple of races that fall started. So I was, the one there with the binoculars. So I was able to kind of give them an update on what was happening. I think it was like a novice girls 8 fall started, and you could tell because you're watching, and all of a sudden you see lots of oars, lots of action, and then they're in the lanes and nothing.
Mhm.
Um, and then you could tell that they were, so they didn't like just start their race again because they had another race that was lined up. So they just like sent them back to the back of the pack. And so there was a bunch of families on the bridge that were probably waiting for that race. I think the guy on my left probably had somebody in that race. So then they had to stick around even longer to wait for that one, because then they just kept running the next races. Um, so we were like trying to figure out, because I think then one of the other finals also fall started from Hannah's varsity group. So we weren't really sure because we could see that there were 4s, and we're trying to figure out based on, lanes and what color people were, which of those, because again,
Yeah.
absolutely no cell reception. Nobody could get any information. So at one point, and this happened to me twice, I should have learned my lesson.
Mhm.
Hannah's boat just does not look like they do in like up close from a distance.
Mhm.
So they have you, so their colors are obviously green, white, sometimes black, gray.
Mhm.
Um, and from a distance, they're used for some reason look almost like Miss Eunice, like it's completely different colors, and like they
Yeah.
almost look like they have an N on the back. I swear to God, it's the weirdest thing. And they have, I know, all right, completely different.
Mhm.
I knew their boat was black. And so they had bought a bunch of the St. Lawrence oars, that were secondhand but still in good condition. So they are, I don't know if you know St. Lawrence colors, but it's kind of like a brown and red.
Okay.
And their oars kind of have like on the diagonal, half is red, half is brown, but
Yeah.
they're also really worn out on the back side. So it's kind of like whitish in the middle.
Mhm.
So from a distance, when I was watching their time trials, I was convinced that was absolutely not going to be their boat because their unis look red. The blades looked almost maroon with an emblem in the middle, like a seal, like a white seal. So I thought it was like city honors or something.
Yep.
um, and I should have learned because for their final, I was like, I didn't even know what lane they were in. I had no details, and so I was like, well, maybe that's them. I mean, you could tell which boats were absolutely not them, like
Mhm.
light blue. You could see that. You could see like blue oars or like stripes on the oars. That wasn't them. And then as they came closer, you could say like, oh, okay, maybe they are green. Maybe there is some green in those unisuits. Maybe those that boat does look kind of black from here.
Mhm.
And oh yeah, that's right. Their oars, even though up close I know that they're half red, half brown, um with the worn out white, it really like it looks very different from afar. Anyway, so they ended up winning, so that was exciting, and we were trying to like update each other, and once we realized, so it was city honors family that was next to me.
Oh, okay.
And so then for some reason in my head, I had it City Island as we were talking about which races our kids were in. So
Mhm.
so they were in the A final. So we were trying to figure out like which one we were watching. And then it wasn't until the end that I realized, oh yeah, like City Honors is from Buffalo, from West Side. So then we were like quickly saying, like, oh, like I rode for West Side. They're like, oh, you're from Buffalo? I'm like, no. Like quick, like, oh, I went to
Do the whole
Union.
story, like the
Yeah.
origin story, get it all.
um but that day in the morning after the time trials, as I was kind of like following and waiting to see like Hannah after her race, it's so, it's so busy in that area, and I'm standing kind of to the side. Chris came by, he was on duty, so he had his whole like, trooper uniform on and everything. And so they were kind of like standing off to the side waiting for her boat to be done putting it on the trailer. And I ran into Corey Campbell, Leonardo, who I know we talked about. So I saw
Yep.
her last year. So I had a feeling I would see her again. And as I'm standing there, I see this eight of girls and this girl with bright red hair. And I knew her daughter had bright red hair. And I'm like, oh my God, I think that's Corey's daughter. And then I turned and there she is. She's standing right there, Corey. So we were chatting a little bit. She was getting ready to launch for her varsity eight. So she was in the varsity eight.
Mhm.
And then she went that way, and I turn again, and Molly Beck's standing there.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, I was just like, UB rower after UB rower. It was kind of
We're
funny.
everywhere. Yeah.
Everywhere. Yeah. I did not see Dave. So
Oh, okay. Okay.
Dave, I don't know if you're trying to hide from me because maybe you don't want to be on the podcast, but I did not see him
Are
there.
you going to Syracuse next weekend?
No,
You going to
we're
'cause they
doing
'cause
Stotesbury.
Oh, Stotesbury. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So just talk about craziness because we had so busy, and then we had like a Mother's Day get together with my parents on Sunday. And then yesterday we went and see Bush and Filter at Proctor's at
Oh,
night.
wow.
So
Oh, that's so
it's like,
cool.
which was a lot of fun.
Mhm.
But we were both like, why did we do this? This is like such a crazy week. Chris left for Washington, D.C. this morning. He's got like this whole pipe band thing down there for 2 days.
Wow.
He'll be coming back on Thursday. I'll be leaving on Thursday with a car full of kids. And as we were talking as we were at the concert, I was like, oh, you're going to be gone. I need help getting the the cover. Like that we have this thing up for the top of the car, right?
Yeah.
Like a cargo carrier for the
Mhm.
top of the car. And we ended up with 4 plus Hannah. So like there's going to be 6 of us in my car. And it's a third row SUV, but it's not like a big one.
Mhm.
So I was like, where are we going to put all these kids' luggage? Plus I
Yeah.
want to bring the wagon and chairs and stuff. So I was like, I really think I need that car top carrier. So we had to do that late last night when we got back. So yeah, so it's just been crazy. So when we leave, then so he'll come back on Thursday. I'll be leaving Thursday. Thursday, we'll get down to the site. They rig the boats. They have the team dinner. Friday's the time trials. I think some finals, and then Saturday's the rest of the finals. But Friday night, I have to leave to head up to, and there's like another mom that's switching with me. She's coming down like on Friday.
Mhm.
She'll take the kids back. But I have bridal shower in Buffalo on Saturday.
Oh my
So
goodness.
so I got a hotel kind of like I think it's like near Horseheads or somewhere, Corning somewhere. So I'll leave Philadelphia, stay overnight there, drive the rest of the way on Saturday morning, and drive back on Friday or Saturday night. And then Chris will be home. But then I think it's like such a crazy couple weeks, right? And then Pittsburgh's the next weekend too. So
Yeah, yeah. Are you gonna, so are they going to, because you said they got a bid to nationals, right?
so some of the
Is it,
teams did, yeah.
or
So
did
the
Hannah for
girls,
her double?
no, no.
Okay.
So they're not. So the senior girls double is going to SRAs.
Okay.
The varsity boys quad got first. I think they got first overall, not just scholastically, like they got
Oh, wow.
first. So they're going to that. I don't know if they're going to nationals. There was talk of that. I think the girls could possibly go. I don't know what the update with that is. Um, the boys freshman quad and eight both qualified for SRAs,
Okay.
and possibly the junior girls quad qualified for club nationals because they're U17.
Okay.
So, but I don't know if I don't know who's actually going. I don't know any of those details or anything. But yeah, so our team did pretty well overall. So that was good. I think the boys that were in the quad also qualified in their individual doubles as well.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So yeah, so Shen had a good they had a good weekend. So
Very
yeah.
cool. That's
Mhm.
great. So you guys are off to Stotesbury next weekend and
Yeah.
Pittsford the following weekend, minus the people who are going to SRAs. Perfect.
Yes. So I will be in Pittsburgh.
Okay.
I'll
All
be
right.
officially chaperoning. So yeah, but we could still figure something out in terms of like doing some kind of recording at some point, I'm sure.
Yeah, yeah, we'll have to kind of I'll have to scope it out and think about I don't know, maybe the Wi-Fi is gonna be the well, I mean, if we're
Yeah,
together, we can just record it, and we'll just record
I
it
think
like
so.
yeah,
Yeah.
we'll record it. I'll bring because I can bring my microphones. I'll double check that they'll
Okay.
that they'll
Yeah.
that they'll work with the two because I have two like I have like the little two microphone thing, but I've only used one because I've been like I use it to record when I record myself for stuff. So
Mhm.
yeah, I will do a little bit of research and make sure that we are all set up and but I think all we need is like a stand for the camera and a place to do our little podcast from. And I can take some B-roll, as my son would call it, of
Mhm.
like some rowing, and we can insert that in. And so
Cool.
you'll be there racing on Saturday and Sunday, or just racing. I forget how they do the kids. Are they I know that they do a couple races in the afternoon that are for the youth, and then I think all of Sunday's youth, right? I think the morning.
That
is-
sounds that sounds right considering at least last year. When I raced on Saturday and a bunch of the afternoon races got canceled because of rain or flooding or lightning. I think it
Yeah,
was lightning.
lightning.
Um, and so Hannah's quad got canceled. So I think they do some of the sculling for the youth on Saturday,
Yeah.
and
I
then
think
maybe it's all
regular like
sweep.
sweep on Sunday. Oh, we'll have to look at the schedule and figure that all out.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
yeah,
I have
I'll
no
be into it.
idea. I have no idea what she's gonna row. So like this
Mhm.
weekend, so she did the junior double at States, and then it was regular girls like varsity four.
Mhm.
But this weekend for Stoats, one of the senior girls won't be there. So,
Oh.
and Stoats is always tricky because you can't row more than once.
Mhm.
So they have to really figure out like the best combinations of people for like in knowing you can't like just re-row people.
Mhm.
So I think she's in a double with the other senior girl. So they were practicing that yesterday. I think they want to try and practice tomorrow morning too.
Mhm.
So they're doing the double, and then that probably means that there's like a junior girls quad. I think that's what it is. But
Yeah.
then for Stoats, this both seniors will be at SRAs. So I'm assuming it'll probably be Hannah and her junior double
Mhm.
with the because I think Noelle's also going. So she'll probably just be doing the double. Maybe they'll put together a four or quad too.
Yeah.
So if she doesn't do any sweep, they probably will sweep though, because they do have one coxswain that's um, a girl. So, she's been coxing the boys too. So I think, who knows how they're gonna put those combos together, but she might only race on Saturday. So I have no idea.
All right, well, just keep me posted, and yeah, we can
Yeah.
figure out what makes the most sense as far as like doing a little recording while we're there and catching up with
Yeah.
people. Maybe we could do a couple of different little vignettes and stuff and kind of piece it all together. We don't have to do like
That
one straight
be
talk
fun.
one spot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So if we sit and chat somewhere about something or we get talking with someone, we can record with them and then we can scoot off and record with some other people. That would be fun. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'll try to leave my Saturday and Sunday open. I'll have to talk to my children and figure out what their schedules are. Cause I think last year Luke might have had because my kids are doing outdoor track right now. So he might have had some
Oh
type
yeah.
of like county meet or something like that. Cause I
Mhm.
remember I was only there. I remember being there in the morning. I don't remember being there in the afternoon. And I think the weather went plus minus in the afternoon anyway, because you're talking about
It's
the
on Saturday.
yeah, talking about the rain delay. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, that's amazing. So, like, I know you had mentioned like Hannah and summer rowing. Like, what is she deciding for the
Hmm.
summer?
Oh my gosh, it's so up in the air. I don't know what we're gonna do. We're trying, it's hard because I have to remind her too that, you know, I mean, I was really into rowing at some point, but not all during high school. Like I did not row every season. I started rowing my freshman year, but I took seasons off. Like I was doing different things and just took breaks and came back to it. And I think I might have done something every summer, but maybe not. It's just like sometimes you just think like maybe just nice to have a break. But she just keeps talking about wanting to be in the single. So
Yeah.
we're looking in to see like what we can do. I mean, we have the single, so that's not the issue, but it's just a matter of like how do we get her out there in the single and have somebody with her? Like I don't want to just send her off in the single. Um, I could probably because I'll join back up with the masters at the end of June, so then I could probably start going out with her in the single. Um, or maybe I don't know if we can figure out how to use one of the launches or I kind of wanted to like see if we could get one of the coaches, like pay them on the side or something. But yeah, I don't know. I think,
Yeah.
I would want to get out to Rochester too, because I think it would be cool and maybe we could all go out.
Oh my gosh, it'd be so much
Bring
fun.
my single.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, it's
Yeah.
so great. And there's rental boats at GWC too. So if anyone else wanted to join us, like there's
Oh,
plenty of
cool.
they have a bunch of pinerts and that kind of thing. So we could get a little fleet of people to go out
Yeah.
and kind of paddle around. That would be super fun. Just kind of like a touring thing. Like we're not going out to
Yeah.
each other, I don't think.
Yeah.
Like, I always
Yeah.
this is the challenging part, and I already have like parents who are reaching out to me for summer and
Hmm.
like trying to
Hmm.
find the balance between what should you be doing during the summer that makes sense? What makes
Right.
sense for you
Right.
as an athlete? Like in the phase of
Hmm.
development, like should you be doing like a full on like competitive summer? And around here, if you're going to do competitive during the summer, you're going to go to Pittsburgh Crew. They have like a regular summer program. They go to what do they call Independence Day
Yep.
at West
Independence
Side.
Day in Philly.
Oh,
Yeah.
and Phil.
Oh,
No, what do they call the one?
West Side Invitational.
West Side Invitational, and then
Yep.
Independence Day in Philly, and then I think they do Henley. They might do something in between.
Yep.
There might be one more that I'm not thinking of. And they practice like I think it's 5 days a week. It could be two times a day if you want.
Yeah.
It's very
Yep.
very involved, and then that will go through Henley. So that's the
Hmm.
beginning of August, and then really those kids only get like a couple weeks off, and then
Hmm.
they're hitting the ground running for the fall. So
Yep.
I go back and forth on whether like
Me.
kids should really go all out during the summer because, it's a great time to kind of unwind and, do something different. Use your like, I always think about using your body in a different way, whether it
Mhm.
be like you bike instead or you,
Right.
swim or you pick up some other sport, something that
Mhm.
just is really, really different. Maybe you play pickleball with your parents, 3 times a week. I don't know. Like, you just kind of think about, like, should you like or you join a run club for the summer, like my kids do. Of course, my kids are like they treat, running like rowing, and they try to
Mhm.
run all the way around. So they do a summer run club with their school, and that's well, not with their school, it's with the town that their school is in. So it's like 4 days a week, and they're out there running, but they take the kids to different locations, kind of around the city, so that the kids are running in different places. So it kind of feels more fun than like a traditional, like, oh, we're just at the school and we're, going out for a run there. So I don't know. I go back and forth. I mean, there's so much you can learn from being in the single.
Mhm.
There's just like there's a lot technique wise, there's a lot boat feel wise that can be developed over the summer without necessarily needing to have to go fast.
Mhm.
I think it's a time to slow down and figure out like how exactly am I putting together my technique. Um, but it's also a good time to do something else. Just like kind of
Yeah, I know. And it's hard too because, there's that pull to want to be, part of a team. And I think Hannah fell in love with Henley last year, and I can relate. I mean,
yeah.
it's my favorite race.
Mhm.
Um, so, I think she's like not sure. And I kind of looked this up. I'm not sure if you can enter it unaffiliated. So I don't know how
Yeah.
we would do that. So
I don't know.
I don't
That's
know. We'll
a
see. I will
question.
keep you updated.
Yeah, like I've never
Yeah.
read the rule. I would think you could. I don't know, but it might just be on the master's end that you can do something like that. But I mean, what if you're like just
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like
Because I was looking to, yeah.
yeah. Like, what if you're like you said, like just an unaffiliated kid who, because the unaffiliated gets to be tricky. It's a tricky space to
Mhm.
be in. And that's why I kind of caution kids as especially as they move through their rowing experience that like getting mad at your club or getting mad at your coach
Mhm.
and then thinking you're going to do it on
Mhm.
your own becomes a very
Oh,
like
yeah.
precarious, crazy spot to be in. Like, it's much better
Yeah.
to learn some lessons about how to deal with people who
Mhm.
potentially, I don't want to say don't like you, but potentially aren't giving you the attention like
Mhm.
that you think you deserve. Like
Yeah.
not that you like like I feel like because sometimes in rowing, like I don't know, like especially with very large teams,
Mhm.
them feel kinda lost in the sauce, they feel like
Sure. Yeah.
attention to them, and from
Yeah.
a coaching perspective, like, I always instruct because like, a lot of times because 'cause I'm not coaching a team right now, I'm not coaching a team like
Right.
masters, I'm not coaching a team of high schoolers, but as someone who's a former high school coach, what
Mhm.
the athletes that stood out to me were the ones who were like, like, they were there on time, they put their stuff up,
Mhm.
weren't on their phone, they did their warm-up without me asking, they took down the oars, they made sure that there was ballast in my boat, like, that's just kind of what wanna impress your coach, and they drive a
Yeah.
a launch where you need ballast. If you're the kid who puts
Mhm.
the ballast in the boat, I got my eye on you. Uh,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
you're definitely, like, putting in some of the extra special stuff, so,
Sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's just, like, it's the kid who does their warm up, gets on the erg, and maybe does 10 minutes of just some steady state before we go out,
Mhm.
like, does their stretches, is over there doing some push-ups, is over there doing some crunches before they get out on the water, um, they take the feedback that you're giving them and try to do something with it. If they're not getting feedback and they want it, they come up to you at the end of practice and they're like, "Hey, coach, is there anything in particular that I can work on?"
And
And
it
as a coach, if you like, I'll get in those situations where I would get in the situation where a kid would come up to me and ask, like, "Hey, coach, what should I work on?" And I'm like, I didn't really look at you all that much today, because like coaches are people, like
Yeah.
if nothing's like standing out, like they're not gonna say anything in particular to
Mhm.
you. So like,
Mhm,
raising that attention to your coach, "Hey, I'd love to be working on something. Next time we have practice, can you just take a look at my stroke and see if there's anything that, that I can improve?" Um, the kid who had asked me, like, "Well, what could I do as an extra workout?" You know what I mean?
mhm,
Even if it was like, "1 time a week, coach, I've got time to do something extra. What would it be?" And they'd be
mhm.
like, "Oh, yeah, do 10 push-ups, do, 20 sit up." Like, I give them like a general something like, and some kids would do it and like it would actually make a
Mhm,
difference. Or yeah, like when you're not doing those things and you expect your coach to be like to have you front of mind, to have you in the A boat,
mhm.
like
Yeah,
you have to like, even if you don't have the best relationship with your coach, you have to build a relationship with your coach. It's just how rowing works.
yeah,
Like
definitely, yeah.
and then it's kind of a roundabout way to kind of be like, and then it comes to the summer. In the
Mhm,
summer, if you want that attention, you potentially have to row. I mean, you potentially have to do the summer
mhm,
program if your coach is there. Um, Kind of going rogue and going unaffiliated and doing all that, like, if you don't have a good rapport with your coach, can then
mhm.
create this little sting a little bit on there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, no, I hear everything you're saying. I've kind of been
yeah.
thinking the same thing, and, I think with Hannah, it's more like I think she needs
Wants
a
to row.
break, but
Yeah,
but and she does but she likes she wants to enjoy rowing and being out
yeah,
there, and I think, it like you said, I don't think doing unaffiliated and going to Henley is necessarily, like, the call, but
mhm.
I think she's trying to navigate that too, and it's very likely that she'll probably just do the competitive program this summer,
Yeah.
like,
It's a
we'll
hard
see.
balance, like, I think, and
Yeah.
from what I've heard, it sounds like Hannah has a good relationship with her coach, and she's not trying to do extra to get to skirt around what her team's actually doing, but a lot of times kids get in that
Yeah.
position where they
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yeah.
yeah, they either they club hop or they don't, the
Right.
coach, they feel like one coach doesn't give them, the quote
Mhm,
unquote respect that they need. But I'm like, how, like, what have you put into the relationship? How much have you invested into the relationship? I mean, because sometimes it gets to the point where, you know, people don't the rower really doesn't feel comfortable with that coach, and so, like, the ability to build a relationship is pretty much would take mountainous work on both
mhm,
ends for that coach
mhm.
to then kinda come around and for that athlete to come around, but, like, again, it's like a life lesson too.
It is. There's a lot of life lessons
A
for
lot of
sure.
it's a life
Yeah.
lesson because, like,
Mhm.
not everything's gonna be handed to you just because you want it.
Yep.
And so, like, I have a couple high school athletes that I'm working with right now, and I ride a fine line because I am that other person that they can go to, and I'm like, "Wait a second."
Mhm.
I'm like
Yep.
"You need to be doing all the things that
Mhm.
build a strong relationship with your coach and your team. You need to be the person who is not standing off to the side during trailer loading." Like, I
Mhm.
specifically like, as I'm, like, stretching my kids and doing PT with them, I'm like, "You can't be standing off to the side during trailer loading. You can't be the kid who doesn't have a wrench. You can't be the kid who doesn't know how to tie boats down. You can't be the kid who doesn't know how to, like, if your team's taking, motors off of launches, like, you can't be standing off to the side not holding the boat or holding that motor, or, like, you have to be the kid who's vested in all the things rowing if you want
Mhm.
to be the kid who's gonna be, maybe the choice who's 6, 7, 8, those last 3 kids to make it in the first A boat. Like, you might have 6 kids on
Mhm.
the team who are, like, solid erg scores, but then
Mhm.
there becomes other things, like, I would consider as a coach. I'm like, "Well, who's gonna make sure that boat's rigged right? And who's gonna, like,
Yeah.
who's a good competitor, may not
Mhm.
have the score that I'm looking for, who has decent form, who's not gonna talk back in the boat, and they help with trailer loading." Like, I would pick you as the 8th person in that A boat if you had those
Mhm.
qualities. But if you
Yeah.
don't have those qualities, but you just think that you deserve to be there,
Mhm.
like, that's the kinda stuff that, like,
Yeah.
me batty, and,
Mhm.
it's tough for, I mean, because 'cause they're kids, they don't wanna do all,
Mhm.
it's a lot of work, like, building those relationships and, like, thinking about your coach as a real person, um,
Mhm.
important. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely, yeah.
Mm.
Well, because trust is really important, right? Like, you have to be able to trust that somebody's gonna show up. Somebody's going to put in the effort and care about the rest of the team. And sometimes trust is more important than some of the other things. And yeah.
And
Mhm.
it's hard to quantify, you know,
Yeah.
I struggled with that when I coached, quantifying the reasons why I would pick one person over another for a boat. Like, you have like, as
Hmm.
a coach, you have, like, this crazy power, which then becomes into, like, this, like, curse because then
Yeah.
you made your decision on these people based off
Yep.
of a lot of different variables, and, like,
Mhm.
then as the parents look at it, the parents see, the variables that they can see. They're like, "Oh, well, so and so's
Mhm.
ERG score is better than such and such ERG score." And so that's
Mhm.
why, like, I was always like, I like a good seat race, like some
Yep.
variation of seat racing if there's a reason to kind of, like, to be kind of plus minus about who should be where. I always like to fall back on a good seat race. If they lost the seat race, like that's a hard climb, but, like, sometimes you
Yeah.
have to climb that and be like, "Well, once I put that person in the boat, because as a coach, there's lots of, like, little incidentals that you can see. Like, I remember, like, sitting in the launch and you're watching an 8 and you kinda blur your eyes and you're looking at
Mhm.
everybody's moving, and if you can see that one person who's just not keeping it, not making the boat move the way that visually you want your boat to move, like,
Mhm.
that would be a reason I'd be like, "Nah, I'm going with this chick. I'm gonna put
Mhm.
oh," and then you go and you sit and you're watching it and you're just like, there's rhythm, there's movement, there's incidentals that I can't explain to somebody who doesn't know rowing.
Mhm.
Sometimes parents who don't know rowing are really, like, by the data. They're like, "It's supposed to be this, it's supposed to be this, my kid,"
Right.
and, like, sometimes it's not, but
Mhm.
it's like, do they get along too? Like,
Mhm.
you can't put a boat of 8 really strong people together who don't get along. I mean, like, you can make it work, it can go fast, but it can be, I mean, on a smaller team and a coach who
Mhm.
just doesn't wanna have to deal with the drama, like, sometimes it's like, "Those 2 don't get along, I'm not even putting them but near each other in a boat," and, like, but
Yeah.
that's why I don't coach, like, high schoolers anymore.
That
It was so much work. It was like
yeah.
it was so many mind games and, like, you're
Mhm.
teaching, especially because I coached girls. I mean, you're teaching young women how to get along with each other, how to get along with a coach of authority, like, how to, then you're teaching, like, coxswains how to instruct a group of people who are your peers, but they aren't your peers for 2 hours once a day. Like, it's
Mhm.
a complicated thing. It's a complicated thing. Well, I hope Hannah has a really
Yeah.
good summer, and I hope,
Yeah.
whatever she decides to do is gonna be
Mhm.
awesome. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah, I'll keep you
mm,
posted. We'll
yeah.
figure it out. I think for Keegan it'll be simple. I'm assuming if he wants to row, there's like what they do is they have the learn to row times kind of line up with like the less competitive just like continuous rowing kind of group, right? And you can do it. You sign up for like I think you sign up for the weeks just like you do with the learn to row.
Okay.
So I think it's like 3 hours, maybe not even 3 hours, like two and a half maybe for like 2 week sessions. And so he'll probably do at least one of those. And,
Mhm.
it's not like really early in the morning. It starts at like 9 and goes till
Oh, nice.
probably right about noon or something. Um, so yeah, so we'll probably talk about that for him. That'll keep him busy. But these are always challenges for working parents in the summertime. I mean, at least they're old enough now that like for chunks of the day when they're not like doing something, like they're fine at home, but like
Mhm.
it's the transportation is the tricky
Transportation is
part. So,
key. Yeah. When does,
yeah.
get her license?
Well, that's another goal for the summer. So, whatever she ends up doing, I'm really hoping that she ends up at the end of the summer with a license. I don't know if we'll have a car for her. I mean, the thing is that Chris has a work car, so
Mhm.
and obviously both have our own cars. So, she does have access to a car that's not being used. It's just that it's probably going to be Chris's like gigantic truck. So,
Mhm.
which is I hate driving, so I can only imagine it's not going to be Hannah's favorite either. Um, but yeah, so it'll be more helpful when she can drive.
Mhm.
It's just, I mean, I don't see us getting a car for her, and again, she won't be driving a truck to school.
Mhm.
So, I don't know how that's all gonna work out. Like, it's probably not gonna make that much of a difference for next year.
Yeah.
Um, it's very competitive from what I hear to get a parking pass
Oh, okay.
at school. And so we're still gonna have the transportation to and from practice, from the school. And then once she's there, still gotta get her home. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Yeah, I know.
It'll
It
take
would be
pressure
nice.
off.
It would be
Yeah.
really nice.
My my
Mhm. I don't know, you
my
have 4. I mean, I don't know how you do it. I don't
Yeah.
have 2. I got a
Well,
car garage.
my mom didn't she wasn't using her car, so, we were able to
Mm,
it's like a little sedan, so the kids have been using that.
mhm,
So Luke drives that most of the time now, and it's really great. It's so nice
mm.
'cause he's able to bring Emma and himself home from school. New York State rule is, like, you can drive 1 sibling, I believe, or you can or
Just one?
I think it's you can drive siblings, but
Okay, I was gonna
drive
say,
them.
oh, that's like, Sophie's Choice for you guys. Like,
Yeah,
how do you
well,
decide?
actually, it works out pretty good because Timmy's older. He lives
Yeah,
in Rockport, so he's not driving. I mean, he doesn't have a car,
right.
but so Luke will drive the sedan around. And what's really great is when they come home from meets, like at like 11 o'clock at night or something like that. We don't have to
Mhm.
roll back out to school to get them. So and then he's
Yeah.
able to drive back home from practice, and it really kind of it loosens everything up once they're
Yeah.
able to drive. Like even if it's
Mhm.
just like, can you run out and grab something or go drop your sibling off or pick
Mhm.
them up from a friend's house? Like it just kind of gives you like another set of hands to kind of move things around with,
Yeah.
which is really good. So once she gets it, like you'll find that there'll be opportunities, even if she doesn't have her own car, there'll be opportunities where she will be helping you because
Yeah.
it's convenient. And, like, even if there's, like,
Mhm.
evening practice that she comes home and then she's driving out to that and driving back, like, you don't have to do that, hands off. So,
Yeah.
that will be really, really good. It'll free up some time for you, definitely. But
Yeah.
it's a
Yeah. So yeah, that's the other challenge with the summer, right? Because they do typically have 2 days, at least 3 days a week. They did that last summer
Oh,
where
wow.
they did morning every day, Monday
Mhm,
through, I mean, maybe even Saturday, I think. And then 3 days a week it was afternoon. So that's the other thing, is that that's kind of her life. Like that's the
absolutely.
challenge, right? Because she's probably not going to go half in, because there was the option to do, I don't know. And again, who knows what's going to happen this summer with the teams, but like they did um competitive but not racing competitive. So there
Uh,
was like, I think it's just kind of to term it out. There was like the daytime group for pretty much like middle school that are still rowing, that already know how to row,
mhm,
up to I think rising ninth graders could do that program. And then the older kids, so the rising 10 through 12. And then I think there sounds like there's a big group that's coming back that graduated from both Burn Hills and Shen that are coming back to row together
oh,
for the summer. So that might be kind of a new direction that at least people in our boathouse, I don't know what team they're going to be with, but
mm,
that they're doing, which would be really nice, because I mean, I think the idea is that, it is hard. We kind of talked about this. I mean, in Buffalo, it was nice because there was West Side right there. So
mhm,
I mean, it meant I came back home for the one summer and I coached the Learn to Row, and I did kind of like what we were talking about, like kind of like rec rowing, but like
mhm,
we did kind of do the rogue thing, but
mhm,
yeah, it was with our team, but it was like two of us, that were around. So we would do like a doubles race or something. Um, but like if you don't have that in your area, or it's not like really big,
mhm.
and especially there's a lot of D1 athletes out that graduated a few years ago or are graduating this year, that want to really keep that competition level up, right? Like
Yeah.
it's kind of hard to do that kind of like recreational row and still keep in shape for your D1 season in the fall.
Oh,
So it's almost like you have to go to another city to get that experience for a lot of people,
yeah.
So I'm glad that that seems like it's picking back up around here for the kids who do want to come home for the summer. Um, I just ended up staying out in Buffalo for those 3 summers, and that was a nice option. But
Mhm.
yeah. So
Yeah, and
yeah.
here we have Flower City. Flower City is the one where it's like the D1
Mhm.
athletes who kinda come home during the summer, they row
Okay.
Flower City, but that's kinda it's a master's program, so there are some like masters, like older people, not
Mhm.
20 who compete in that, but like it's they wake up at 5 in the morning. It's a before work kind of experience, like out there for 2 hours and they're rowing 6 days a week and then they're competing throughout the summer. So it's that kind of thing. And but I think like it's hard because there's, that transition between like if you're a D1 rower and like you want to keep up with what you're doing. Like you said, you probably have to find there won't potentially there won't be something in your town that can keep you in that kind of shape.
Mhm.
You might have to,
Yeah.
go to Philly or, go to like a West Side in Buffalo or be up in Canada and Ontario or something like that where you're going to get that exposure and that continued competitive edge kind of growing. But yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
Summer rowing is always you never know what you're gonna get. I don't know how much rowing I'm gonna do this summer or
Mhm.
know what I mean? But you just
Okay.
don't know, like, so, like, I
Yeah.
know that I'm not gonna row with a team, and so I'm probably gonna get out in the single a little bit, not in the double, but, with the way that everything's kinda going around, like, as far as my family stuff and hopefully the clinic and
Yeah.
everything, like, I just don't know how much actual rowing I'll do, and then there's always that coaching option. People are always asking me, "Can you do private coach?" I'm like, it's just it takes a lot of work. It take a lot of footwork and, lining up with one of
Mm.
and being kind of under their insurance umbrella and that kind of thing. Like, I carry insurance so that I can
Yeah.
round in the double with people, and I do that
Okay.
at my clinic, but
Mhm.
don't have, like, rowing on the square is not an organizational level in US rowing, and that's what really would put me under an
Mhm.
umbrella where I could just, like, run a launch and, like, be able to take people out.
Okay.
But,
Yeah.
there's an insurance cost to that. That's, pretty
Sure.
more hefty than what the insurance that I use to cover just me taking people out in my double. So
Yeah.
yeah, it's always there's always and I think that's always the linchpin is the insurance piece of it. Is
Yeah.
like the independent coaching is really difficult because of the insurance piece.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's tough because summertimes when everybody's asking, these individual coaches
Yeah.
really coaching a team during the summer, "Can you coach me?" And I'm like, it's always you have to kinda figure out what insurance umbrella to fall underneath so that so that's being taken care of, but it can be done, and I just wish it was easier for coaches to do it because, financially,
Yeah.
it would help coaches out if they could have studies summer income without necessarily having to commit to coaching a program 6 days a week.
Right.
They do that during the season. So,
Right.
if you made it easier for coaches to kinda jump in and out,
Mhm.
so they could make a little money and actually, help other athletes, I mean, that would be great, but that's not kinda how, insurance in US rowing is set up, so unfortunately.
We just need to change US rowing, Adrian. I mean, we need to make them stop having this paid live stream that is just not working out. Oh, and I'm not a fan of. And we need to make private coaching. And again, I kind of start worrying like, am I going down this rabbit hole of like the typical like sports mom, like I'm trying to see it that I'm not doing that, but as I listen to what I'm saying, it kind of sounds that way. But it's one thing to say, like, it's such a sport that, like, I know it, right? But, like, I could totally, and I can see what I'm looking for, right? With me, but, like, on behalf of my kid. Like, I know, again,
Yes.
trying to say that, like, honest to God, everybody listening, Hannah's the one who's saying, Mom, I just want to run single. Like, I wish that I could get X, Y, and Z, right? So, like, I'm trying to see what I can do. I don't want to, this is not, we don't have like buckets of money to like, hire
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
for like, whatever. There's a limit, right? But like I can totally see it from that point of view that like it would be great to say, I really like what you do that's different than what my coach does, but it's not going to conflict with like the technique that I've been taught, right? But it's like, I would love to go out and see what you see from your point of view and some pointers that you could give me so that I can work on it and, have experience in it and also learn something, right? Like sometimes I feel like,
In different
I mean, yeah, you have to get along with your coach. Yeah,
Mhm.
you have to do that. Like you said, all of that's important. But sometimes if it's not connecting in a way that you feel like you're growing in the way that you want to grow, like I think there is validity in
Mhm.
saying like, I would love to like pick somebody that maybe I can learn something new from, right? And have that flexibility. So
Yeah.
we'll just have to somehow change US rowing and make this a
We'll have to change
possibility.
it because that's a big thing is like coaches really can't act independently in the current
Mhm.
framework that we have.
Yeah.
Unless I don't believe maybe we need to get there's a guy from US Rowing that I talked to about insurance. Maybe we'll have to
Mm.
have him on the podcast to explain on how all this works. But like I think there's a lot of things like as far as cost and thing, the cost of insurance has gone up for all clubs basically.
Yeah.
The mishaps that happen, like, when people take boats out and sink them and then the Coast Guard's coming on, it's on, the national news.
Right.
That doesn't help us. And so like the insurance, because we're a dangerous sport, even though like we don't think of it like that, like it really is.
Right.
So, these premiums and the safeguards that are there for a reason. But
Yeah.
but it does kind of handcuff the ability to be able to go and get coaching, like to sign up with a coach and just be able to instantly do something like that.
Yeah.
It's a launch, you get a boat, you go out and you have 2 hours together and you learn something new. Like that, it's really tough to do
Mhm.
that. As a coach who coaches a lot one-on-one, I love one-on-one. Like even the best rower,
Mhm.
you can take the time to really slow down and
Mm.
see how they're putting things together. I mean, like I'm constantly learning, they're constantly like there's always something that you can kind of piece up and look at that's different when it's
Mhm.
just you. Like I said,
Yeah.
when I'm coaching an 8, I'm blurring my eyes and I'm looking at all of you as one entity. I'm not necessarily,
Mhm.
unless you're sticking out like a sore thumb.
Yeah.
Um, like I'm not looking at just such and such's form and judging that. If it's blending with the group, I'm not necessarily going to pick you out and tell you something different unless I'm seeing that you're not blending with the group. But you could be doing something that's blending with the group that, like, independently in a single, I'd say, "Oh god, don't do that." Like like
Mhm.
you know what I mean? Like, the top quarter of your slide, you are rolling those wheels too fast, and if you're with a bunch of other people and you what I call tuck and run, like, if you
Mhm.
like, it might work with everybody else that you're rowing with, but when you're in the single and I'm looking at you, I'd be like, "Whoa, whoa, 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 whoa." I'm like, "You're pushing the stern of the boat down. You're putting too much weight on the foot plate when you get up there. Your catch feels like bump, bump." Like, and then when I say that to you, you're like, "Oh, okay." So I'm like, "I want your catch to feel like drop, push, not
Mhm.
bump, bump." And like, so then, like, you can make those changes when you're one-on-one, where you can't make those changes when you're in an 8 and you're watching 'cause the whole framework of what you're doing is completely different. I'm looking for the whole creating a certain movement, not just that individual person. So I get your
Yeah.
idea, your need and want for her to have the ability
Mhm.
to have someone to look just at what she's doing and then give her those things that make her feel, because I'm always like when I'm coaching, I'm always searching for the feeling. I want the person to
Mhm.
feel like
Right.
effortless and to feel like they could put the pressure into the boat and to feel like their movement means something and that they can control something to make something else happen. Like, I think that's
Yeah.
what I'm kinda searching for when I'm coaching
Mhm.
one-on-one, which is different than when you're coaching a team, you know?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, I've kept you way too long.
Well, I think it was fun and, we've got oh gosh. Well, if the things weren't so crazy, I probably could have had like 2 people lined up. So Lisa Hansen, who we kind of mentioned in the Wendy podcast, she reached out to me. We were kind of chatting back and forth about our kids. So her daughter Rose too.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, she was very excited about coming on. So we got to get her on. I know I've got a couple of people we've reached out to that we gotta follow up with. So
I think
one
it'll
of
be a
these
busy
days.
summer.
But for now, yeah, yeah. And for now, it's like racing season, right? So it's
Yeah.
just we got plenty to talk about because of the races, but we'll get some people on here too to bring up some variety and some fun stories, hopefully.
Yeah, it'll be really good. Well,
Yeah.
we'll reconvene in another week, and,
Yep.
thank you everybody for listening, and if you wanna come on the podcast, Fantastic.
Mhm.
If you're in Pittsford, for the regatta there, like, stop by and say hi. We'll
Yeah,
we will have to set up a little sign, a little says Rowing Friends Podcast. It'll be cool.
we should,
We did,
yes.
like, a little banner or something like that. So when we do our live
Fun.
in-person ones, I'll have our little background or something. It'd be awesome.
Okay, that's good. Alright, Adriana, have a good week.
You too, take care, and thanks for listening to Rowing Friends.
Yes, thanks everybody.
All right, take care.
Bye.
Bye-bye.